call it a day. So handling exceptions, this is where now, if you can recall, in our last class, in our previous classes, where we were having some errors, and maybe you want to run a program and it gives out an error. But now, how will you do to avoid that error? Those errors is what we normally call exceptions. Now, the first thing create when it encounters an ordinary situation. So this extraordinary situation is normally an error. So the first thing you need to know, it is a special object that the executing program can create when it encounters an extraordinary situation. And in this case, this extraordinary situation is normally an error. Now, remember when you are covering different types of errors, and the program was throwing it. So how will we do so that we can make sure that the program no longer has an error? What we will do, we will handle this exception. And in handling this exception, we will try and accept so that the program will not throw an error again, but will handle it as an exception. For example, look here at example 2, at cell 2. Cell 2, I want to make a program, and this program, I want it to accept an integer value. It will not enter an integer value. It will throw an exception. And I've told you, in this case, an exception is just an. Now, for example, now I say x int input. Then I am prompting the user enter a small positive integer. After the user has entered a positive integer, to print that integer. So this means enter anything else, such as a float, a string. This program will throw an error. So after it has thrown this error, need will no longer be throwing the same error. It will give us an exception such as that, such like it will tell that program can't handle a string value and such like thing. For example, now when I run, and here I enter an integer which is 67, you see the program it was expecting the programmer to enter an int. And instead of you entering an int, you entered a float. So when you entered any other thing apart from an integer, it will throw an error. So in example 2, we want now to learn how now to it will handle this value error. Because we have obtained a value error, it valid literal for it. This means supposed to enter an integer to handle this error. This going now used to handle this error. This is what we call handling an exception. This error which it has thrown, which is value error, it is now an. And how are we going to handle this exception? We normally use try and except function in Python programming. So we'll just write the same thing. We'll start by try, and we'll end it with a full. What are we now prompting the program try? we are programming the program now by entering now to an integer. And when it encounters an error, in case it encounters an error in that try part, it will accept it. And how will it accept it? By printing specified word that you could have fed your program. For example, now here I say x try, then it ends with a full colon, and I've told you time and again, when it ends with a full colon, you have in the line that follows. You see my line where I have x is equals to int input, please enter a small integer. It is intended. Then now, if I have entered this small integer, and now in this program, it will have two bodies. First body, it will cater the first it will have two blocks. The first block, it will cater for try, and in that try block, if the program will meet an error, now it will push it now to the second block. In this second block is a want to make the same program as the way I'd made it above there. I'll say try, then x is equals to int input. Then I'm making a program that it will allow the program to enter an integer value. Then I print that. Now, I assume after now I've made that program, and I assume now not entered an the way I did above here. This means it will throw an error, and this error is a value error. So I want to handle it, and I will handle it by using except command. So I'll say except value error, and then I will end it with a full int. Input cannot be passed as an integer. Input cannot be passed as an integer. So that's what it will accept here. Now, when I will run this, the second program, you see it asks me, please enter a small integer. And when I enter 67, it will print for me the value of 67. But what if now I enter 67.0? In this case, 67.0 is a float. Therefore, it will not be handled by the first block, and the first block is try. In that first block, it will only handle anything that is of integer, that is of integer form. So it will be pushed to accept value error block. So and when it will be pushed there, since because now this program has been made specifically for an integer value, in this case now it will not throw an these words which the programmer has instructed this program to print in case it meets a value which is not an int. It will print input cannot be passed as an integer. For example, now when I enter this 67.0 and I press, the first case, it gave me an error. But in this second case, you see it doesn't give me an error. It will just write 67.0, but it will not execute it. It will tell me input cannot be passed as an integer. So that is the first example of try and accept. The second example, you remember in our chapter where we were learning yeah, if and else. I think it was in chapter 5. We add numbers. We add two numbers, and we were dividing using a dividend divisor. We made a program that could accommodate a dividend and a divisor. And after making that program, you realize whenever you tried to divide by 0, it used to give used to give us, it was division error. So zero division error, it means that you can't divide a number by example. If you can recall, we once did the same sorry, we once did the same wrote the same program. And in that topic, if else, but now here the correct way of how to handle it is to use an exception. For example, when it throws an error, this program, so that in future you avoid those errors in future. For example, now when I run this program, you see it tells me please enter numbers. So I decide to enter 32, comma and 7, and when I press enter, it will divide for me 32 divided by 7, it will give me 0.57. But if now I enter 32 and 0, it will throw an error, 32 comma and 0. When I press enter, it will throw error. Error is what we call exception. So how are we going to this one? In this case, exception here is a zero divisor error. So how are we going to handle that exception? This is how we are going to handle this exception. You remember in that chapter 5, I taught you this way. If by using if to handle that exception. So that is why this is what we learned in that chapter 5 when you want to handle the exception by using if. For example, that 2 and 0, when you use if, it will tell you the is finished. But now this is just for recalling purposes. The correct way of handling that exception is this. Now you will try you will start by writing the try, and if now it meets an error in the try block, that error will be handled by except block. That means now you are handling that exception, that error which you had encountered at the try block. What do you want this program to execute addition of operation, and you have a dividend and a divisor. So in this case, if it will get that division will be possible at try block, it will try to execute it at the 8 block. And at the try block, you write try, full colon, then the line that follows must be indented, because now the operation here, you have to give now your program two numbers, which is a dividend and a divisor. Then if it meets an error here, and that error is normally zero divisor error, how will it be accepted? One program to write, just write, the not allowed. Let us see. In this case, now it will not give you an error. When I will run just 32 and 7, these two numbers division can be done. In these two numbers, division can be done. When I run it, it will give me 4.57. But what if I have 32 and 0? When I have 32 and 0, it means division be done. Division can't be done. It means it will have an error, and that error is what we call an exception. 32 and 0, it means division can't be done. So first block, which is the try block, will not be executed. And if the try block is not executed, it means it pushes it to the except block. So it handles that error. Exception is just handling the error that the program is supposed to throw. You saw at first here, when I put 32 and 0, it threw the error, zero divisor error, and it told me division by 0. But now, when in this case, when I try to handle this error by using the try and except command, it will not throw the error, but it will just tell me division by 0 is not allowed. When I press Now it not pressed the error, it has not thrown an error, but it has just told me that division by 0 is not allowed. Another example, you remember in our classes, I told you that in computation, when using Python, do computation, it has a limit. And you remembered when we raised 2 to power 10,000, it threw for us an error. And that error was an error. When now you raise 2 by 10,000, it threw for us an error. That now you have attained the limit, because when you move by 10,000, just 1,000, it will give you the results. But when you try to multiply it by 10,000, it will give you an error, because it means now you are past the limit. Now, how will you handle programming if you don't want it to give you that error, and instead of being error, maybe it prints a statement such as the result is too big? This is how you will the second line must be intended. You write print 2 multiplied by 2 power. I told you when you write multiplication sign twice, it means power. This means 2 power 10,000. Now, if now that first block is an error, you have to accept it. And by accepting it, you have to write your program in such a way that it will not throw an error, but it will give a display has exceeded the limit or the number is too large. So how will I accept it? I'll say accept overflow error, because we saw here it threw an overflow error. You say accept overflow error, and after it has done exception, it writes print results too large. So when I run, you see now in this case, it has not error. Why has it not written for me an overflow error as an output? Because I've accepted it by writing the try block and exception block. Example, you see I'm writing action, and this operation, I'm saying x is equals to p plus 2. X here is my identifier. X here is my identifier, which I've assigned it to p plus 2. And in this case, I've not assigned the value of p. I've not assigned the value of variable p. So that means I've not done variable definition, and automatically program will throw for me an error. It will throw an error. And this type of an error is named error because not defined p. Because if the in place of this p I could have entered 28 and I ran, it easily give me the results. But now in this case, or the other way, I wrote this p, and at the top here I create a space and say p is equals to 56. You see, I started by first defining p to be equals to 56, and then I'm run operation x is equals to p plus 2. So when I will run, it will not throw error. But now look here for the second case. I have not defined the value of p. I just say x is equals to p plus 2. When I run this operation, it was supposed not to run, but I think it is, let me put R this way because it is still dreaming. When I run that operation, you see it gives an error telling me that R has not been defined. Now, how will I do to for that program not to throw an error? Because I had assigned x is equals to R 2. Now I will start writing the try block. then the except block. And here it told me that name R is not defined. So I will just print that name R is not defined. So I'll just come here and say name R is not defined, because now if you don't define R, it will throw an error. So in the second case, I don't want it to throw an error. I don't want it to throw an error. So how will I accept it? How will I accept it? I will start by writing the try block. Then the second thing will be the exception block. So when I run, you see here now, it will not throw an error. It will just tell me that name is not defined. In the next example, I want to show you that handling exception can be done in all other types of errors, but done on syntax. You have to note that exception can be done in all other types of errors, but can't be done on syntax error. Why can it not be done on syntax error? Syntax error, this means that the programmer has not followed the rules of, not except where the programmer has not followed the rule of programming. This is the same case like a person has murdered somebody, murder charge. So it will be very difficult. So syntax error cannot be exempted. For example, according to rules of programming, you have to start by an identifier on the left-hand side. Then you assign them to a variable. And in this case, you see I've started by a variable and a value, and I have assigned it to an identifier, which is X. That means I've not followed the rules of programming, because if I could have followed the rules of programming, I was supposed to write it this way. I was supposed to write X is equals to Y plus 2. That means I would have followed the rules of programming. But in this one, I've written it the other way around. So when you write it the other way around, it means that follow the way the rules of programming error, and you can't exempt a syntax error. Now see here, I tried to exempt a syntax error, but it still threw for me that error can be exempted. A programmer is supposed to follow all the rules of programming to allow exemption. For example, now here, I tried to exempt it. I say try full colon y plus 2 is equals to x. Because it threw for me at first a syntax error, so I tried to exempt that syntax error. I said exempt syntax error, then print cannot assign to operator. So when I tried again to run, you see it has still it has also thrown for me an error. That means you can't accept as error. You can't accept a syntax error. So what I want you to know in exception is just how to use a try and accept command. So those things that we use to get errors can avoid errors by writing two blocks. The first block is a try block, and the second block is accept block. What is the purpose of try block? The try block, it will check the syntax of a code, and if it doesn't get any error, it will give you the results. What is the purpose of accept block? Accept block, it will check any error that the try block have encountered, and it doesn't know now that error, but it gives an output according to what the programmer had fed the program. So that is just the difference between try and. In summary, that is what we call handling exception. And we have finished how we can handle exception. If there is anybody with a question, you can ask before we finish the second bit. Amos, do you have a question?
Not now.
Okay, so that is as simple as that. That is how you can handle an exception in Python programming. It is just by writing two blocks, and the second block is the except block. So if a program has got an error, has encountered an except block. Allow me to also go to the other thing now. That is now the end of chapter 13. That is the end of the chapter 13. It is as small as that. Now we'll go back to chapter 11, where we learned about just object. It is very brief. The first thing you need to know is what is an object. An object is an instance of a class. It is just an instance of a class. For example, we have seen differences in Python programming. It is we can say they are just brothers and sisters to classes. So the formal definition of a block is an instance of a class. So integers, floating point numbers, string, lists, function are all objects. So you have to know that integers, pointers, strings, lists, and functions are all objects. We can pass object to function, and function can return object. So you are going to see all examples of objects in Python programming. For example, I assigned x to a value 2. You see here I am assigning x to a value 2. So when I assign x to a value 2 and I try to call x, it will give me that x is 2. Now, yeah, after directory is just all operations that can be operation uh, under 2, all operation that can be done with the 2. So I'll just say dir x. So it will give me that x first can be an absolute. Operation number 1 that can be done on x is addition, and, bool, sale, class. So it will just give me all the operations that can be done under x. For example, if I change this x to a number such as 7.8 and I run this cell, then I come and found its directory. You see, it will give me all the operation that can be done, all operation. Let me run it again. You see, it will give me all operation that can be done on 7.8. The first thing, you see, it has written for me ABS. The second thing, it has written for me, you can do addition. You can do a Boolean expression. It is a sale. It is a class. You see here it has given me float. That means that x is a float, and for sure it is a float because it is 7.8. So when you use the dir, which just means directory in Python programming, it will give you each and every operation that can be done to a number which you have fed Python with. For example, you see here also, I want to get the directory of int. That is just an integer. It will tell me it is an absolute. You can do addition. You can do bool, sale, class, and what have you. What if I change it and I say float? Float this way. And I run, it will tell me it is still an absolute. These all things, they are just operation that can be done on a float number. They are just operations that can be done on a float number. Now, the other thing which I want to you to know, you have seen, for example, when it has written for me addition, you see it add a double underscore, then add. So when you are using object and you want to do addition, when you are using object and you want to do addition, in this case, you won't use addition sign. You have to use, for example, here, when I have said directory of float, it means one operation that I can do under float. It is addition or absolute or boolean. So when you are doing addition in float, you don't use addition sign. You just write add and in between the double underscores. For example, now here I have I have assigned x to a variable. I've assigned x to a value 4.2, and I want to do addition using the normal addition and how you can do addition using object. When you see here, I've assigned x is 4.2. When I run, it gives me the result is 4.2. And now when I try to do the normal addition, I will say x plus 3. And for sure, 4.2 plus 3 is 7.2. But now look here. Uh, 3 is equals to 7.2 when I just do the normal addition. But now, look here. What if I want to do the object addition? What if I want to do the object addition? You see here I've written x dot. The variable x has been assigned to a value 4.2, and I want this x dot to be added to 3 the same way we did here x plus 3. So I'll say x dot double underscore add double underscore then bracket 3. I think you are getting me. I'll say x dot add x dot double underscore add double underscore 3, because you had seen here when I was looking for a directory for a number such as 7.8, it gave me one operation that I can do is addition, and you see how this addition was written. It is underscore double underscore add double underscore. So when you want to add anything using object, that is the way you do. So you'll say x, because this x has been assigned 4.3, and say dot uh, uh, dot double underscore add double underscore, then you want to add 3, and when you will run, it will just give you 7.2. What if I want to add 5? You just come here and change 5, and when you run, it will give you 9.2. The other way I will use float. I will use float dot add. Then what do I want to add? I want to add x, which I have assigned it 4.2 to 3. Why in this case have I used float? Now look here, you will see the reason why I've used float. When you run this, and maybe I create another, I want to see all operations be done on this value x, all operation that can be done on this value x. You see, it gives me all operation that can be done on this value x. and one of the operation is float. You see here float. That means that x has got decimal point, and this 4.2 is a float number. It is a float number. That is the reason now in this second case you see it has been written float. It means the number which you are going to add double underscore add then x to 3. Our value of x was 4.2. So when I will run it, it will give me 7.2. I can decide I put here 5 and it will just do an addition and gives me 9.2. And someone might ask, what if now here it is just 4? It will run and give me 4 that way. When I do normal addition, it will give me 7. Now, when I do object addition, this is now how you do addition when you are using object. You don't use the normal addition sign. You'll just say x dot underscore double underscore add double underscore. Then I want to add 5. In this case, when I'll do it, it will for me, it is 5. What if now I run for this, you will see it give me an error. Why will it give me an error? This 4 here is not a float. It's not a float, but it's an int. So if I want it to do it correctly, I'll come here and change this float and I say int. I'll say int so that when I run, it will give me now 9. So I want you just to get the difference of how to do normal addition and how to do addition using objects. The other thing is now how to, the same way, if you can remember, the same way we were concatenating strings, we can do it now using now an object addition. Now look here, I have a string like this. Create a new cell. I have a string like this. Now that string to be concatenated with the DEF. How am I going to achieve it? This is the way I will achieve it. By the normal way, I'll just come here and say print. If I could have been using the normal way, I'll just come here and say print s, then plus, addition sign plus, I want it to be added to DEF. So when I will run, it will concatenate A, B, C with DEF. Now, we are just doing the same thing, but now here we are going to use what we call object concatenation. In object concatenation, I've told you, you are just doing the same thing, but you don't use the addition sign. Now look here, we have S, which is A, B, C. We have assigned it to a string ABC. Now we want to concatenate this string ABC with another string, which is DEF. How are we doing it? When using object, I just say print s dot double underscore add double underscore. Then what do I want to add? I want to add DEF. The second way, how I can do it, I say string str. This ABC is a string. So I'll say str dot add str dot double underscore add double underscore. What do you want to add? I want to add s with def, and it will add. So that is what I want you to get it clearly. That is what I want you to get it clearly. Now, why am I using this string? Let me show you why I'm using this string. Just come here and find the directory of S. If I run here and just come here and find the directory of S, it will tell me all the operation that I can do under that object. It will tell me all the operation that I can do under that object. The first operation, it tells me it is addition. It tells me that string is under class object. I can do contains, it has dar, dar. So I want to show you where it gives me that this is a string. You see here, it gives me that ABC is a string. So that is why now in the second case, I am saying that you can say str dot add, and I want to concatenate S and DEF. So that is how it is done. What if now here I will come and say it is an int this way? When I will come and say it is an int, it will throw for me an error. It will throw for me an error because ABC is not an int. It is a string. So I'll have to come here and change it to a string. And when I'll change it to a string, that is an acceptable operation. And if you can check under this list, a string is there. A string is there. So anything that it is under here, and even if anything that is under here, it means that is an operation that can be executed on that object. That is an operation that can be executed on that object. You can delete this. It was just for explanation. This one, the equality and analysis, I taught you in our last lesson. The other thing which I want to teach you is now how you can play through with different operations under objects. For example, you want to write a name of an individual, and this name of an individual, you want it to be displayed in uppercase. How are you going to do it? There is a function in under object in Python programming that we call upper. When you will use this upper function, whatsoever how you will write your string, it will display it in capital letters. And if you want it to be displayed in small letters, you just say lower. So for example, we want to make a program that can accept a name of a person. And after you have entered that name, it should be displayed in uppercase. So I'm saying name is equals to input. Now I'm prompting the user, or I'm requesting the user to enter his or her name. Then I want it to print hello, hello plus name dot upper. So that means I want the name which the user could have entered to be printed in uppercase. So just look here. For example, that way, you see I want to write my name in just small letters. My name like that, Levi. But now when I will press enter key, this name will be displayed in capital letter. You see now the name has been displayed. Hello, Levi. How are you? So how was it able to be displayed that way? Under object, if you want it to be displayed that way, you saw here what the program was entering was name. So if you want this name now to be displayed in uppercase, you say name dot upper. So that is how, for example, if I enter a name such as Amos in small letters, you see it is in small letters. But when it will be displayed, you see it has displayed Amos in capital letter. So in object, when you want to display something in a capital letter, such as a name or a city, you'll say name dot upper. If it is a city, it is just city dot upper. What if now you want to display it in small letters? For example, you'll just say name dot lower. You just say name dot lower. So for example, if I run the same program, and I write now my name in caps this way, you see I've written my name in caps. But now when I will press enter, you see now my name has appeared in small letters. So when you want to write anything uh, uh, in caps in Python programming, you'll just say name dot upper. If it is small, it is just name dot lower, or any the name of the identifier which you would have used. The other thing is I want you to know is how to use some function such as rjust, such as ljust, because I've already taught you the lower and the upper. So I want to teach you other things such as rjust, such as ljust. What is rjust? If you want now to push, if you want to push, what can I say? If you want to push a string a number of times to your right, you normally use rjust. And if you want to push uh, uh, a string a number of spaces to your left, you normally use a left just. For example, here I have a word, and this word is A, B, C, D. Now I want this word to be pushed 10 times. And what will show me that I have pushed this word 10 times? I want to be shown by this star. I want to be shown by this star. Now, I will say word.rjust. Got four. I don't know if you are viewing my screen, because I realized the Zoom had thrown me. And if you had lost me.
We had lost you. We cannot see your screen.
Okay, thank you. I think now you can see it.
Yes.
Okay, I'll just repeat where I was teaching. Yeah, what I was teaching, I've told you that I've already told you the lower and the upper. The lower is when a programmer wants the program to display all the characters that he or she has written in small letters, even if you could have written them in caps. And the upper is now the opposite. It's where a programmer wants the characters to be displayed now in capital letters, even if you could have written it in small letters. Now we had reached to rjust. Rjust is R is just right. When you want to push your characters towards the right, you normally use rjust. And when you want to push your characters towards the left, you normally use ljust. So for example, here I have a word which is A, B, C, D. I want to push this word 10 times towards the right. So I'll say word, and this word is represented by A, B, C, D, dot adjust. How many times do I want it to be pushed to the right? I want it to be pushed 10 times. Then what will it show me that it has been pushed 10 times? I want it to be, I want to be shown that it has been pushed 10 times by a star, by a star. Now, you see this word ABC has got 4 characters. So this star will be represented, this star will be displayed 6 times. And then the remaining 4 will be represented now by our word, which has got 4 characters. So you see here, I have, it has displayed for the first time 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stars. And then our word has got 4 characters. So that means it has been pushed 10 times towards the right. Now, in the second case, I want it to be pushed 3 times towards the right. So if I want it to be pushed 3 times towards the right, you see I want it to be pushed 3 times. But our word has got 4 characters, This means I want it to be pushed 3 characters, which is less than the number. I want it to be pushed 3 times, which is less than the number that our word contain, which is 4. So this means it will have no effect. It will have no effect. It will just remain where it was. And also when I put here a number such as 4, also it will not, it will have no effect, because now our word A, B, C, D has got 4 characters, and I want it to be pushed 4 times towards the right. So it will have no effect. That word, it will just remain where it was. But when I put now here a number such as 5, it will have an effect, because now our word has got 4 characters, which is A, B, C, D, and I want it to be pushed 5 times towards the right. So it will have an effect, and you will now realize that there will be 1 star, then it will display those 4 characters. So that means it would have been pushed 5 times towards the right. Now you can see here, you see it as 1 star, then the number of those characters. Then here I want it to be pushed 15 times, and it will be represented, the push will be represented by that greater than sign. So that means those greater than signs, will be 11, then A, B, C, D, which is 4. So it means it will be pushed that number of times. Then in the last one, I want it to be pushed 10 times. But in this case, now it has not been represented by any sign. So you see here, this one has been pushed 10 times towards the towards the right. So that's just adjust. When you want to push it towards the right, you use adjust. But when you want to push it towards the left, let us try to push it towards the left, you just use adjust. When you want to push it towards the left, you just use adjust. And you can see when I use here adjust, it will push all these characters towards the left. You see now it has done the opposite. It has pushed all these characters towards the left. Now we have covered upper, we have covered lower, we have covered adjust, we have covered adjust. What about sender? Sender is when now you want the characters to remain centered, to just remain centered. You will use sender. When you want the character just to remain at the center, you will use sender. Then strip. Strip returns a copy of the given string with the leading and trailing white spaces removed. So when you use strip, the leading and trailing spaces will just be removed. So then start with, it determines if the string is a prefix of the string. Then end with. So in this table, you will try to practice with those other characters, such as start with, end with, count, find, and format. But now in the example below, it gives us an example of strip. It gives us an example of strip. Now, you see here, I have a string which is A to Z. Then I want to strip. I want to strip. Now, this A to Z, in my first case, you see I've written A to Z. Then I want it to be printed. I want to print S, and this S has got no operator. Then you see I'm writing S dot strip. It will just remove uh, the starting space and the trailing space. You will see in my first case, A to Z, it got a space here, and at the end, it also add a space. But when I said now S dot strip, uh, it will remove the leading and the trailing white space. So the leading white space is here, and the trailing white space is here. So when you will use strip, it will remove those spaces. And you see in the second case, it has removed. Then count. When you use count, it just count the number of characters that a string has. For example, now I want to count ABC. I want to count ABC, not ABC, BCD. You see it has got 3 characters, B, C, and D. It will give me 3. There are 3 in number. There are 3 in number. There are 3 in number. So I have given you an example of a strip. The other example is now some further operations that you can do on string. Now, the same way, for example, let me now copy this string this way so that you can see it clearly. And I put here, after I've written there, I want to find the number of characters that this string has. I'll just say len s. When I say len s, it will give me the number of characters. And the number of characters this string has is 11. The number of characters this string has is 11. What is the other way which I can do it? The other way which I can do it is by using now count. Is by using count statement. I'll just say s dot count, s dot count this way, and it will count for me. Count. Okay. Then when I say, let me check to confirm a little bit. Okay, in this second case, if I want to count, then I'll say s dot count this way, and then I put it here. When I want to use now the count command, this is what I will do. It gives me 1. It gives me 1. Why? Let me not use that one for the time being. It will confuse you. Now, what I want to say, for example, you have been given this string and it has characters from A to K. Now, the first way which you are used to is for you to use the len function. Len, it just means length. And when you will press, it will tell you that it has 11 characters. Now, what is the other way when now you are dealing with object? When you are dealing with object and you want to find the len, uh, when you are dealing with object and you want to find the length, this is how you do it. You just write s because you want to find the length of s, then write dot, then underscore, double underscore, and write len, double underscore, write len, then another double underscore, and then you write the brackets. So when I run this, it will still give me the same. So the only difference here, this is the normal one where you want to find the number of characters. This is the normal one, and here is when you are using the way we normally do it when you are using objects. When you are using object, yeah, you can try the normal way. It will just give you the same thing as when you will use the object way. The other thing is that also strings in objects can be sliced. The same way we saw that a list can be sliced, also a string can be sliced. For example, we have characters from A to L. And now I want to get 4 characters starting from index 2. That means it will be C, D, E, and F. That is the meaning of 2 ratio 6. I want to get just 4 characters starting from index 2. That means it will be index 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this means that uh, slicing can be done on objects, which are basically strings. The other thing which you need to know is that strings are immutable. Strings are immutable. Why are they immutable? It means that you can't replace a character within a string. You can't replace a character within a string. And this example shows we have a string which runs from A to N, and I want to replace index 3 with S. I want to replace index 3 with S, and index 3 in this case is D. I want to replace it with X. It will throw an error. It will throw an error since strings are immutable. And I told you when you are learning about list, an immutable means it can't be changed. Then yeah, that is it. I think these other things I've covered. So these other things I covered in chapter 9. You remember I told you how to count, insert, append, index, remove, reverse, sort. Then it is just operations under the directory, which when you want to know an operation that it will take place either in a variable, an integer, or a float, you normally use an inbuilt directory function, which is written as dir. And I think up to that juncture, that is the end of our course, unless you have got any question. Thank you very much. Is there any question? I've finished.
no question from me. If
Okay.
you have a question later, can we still contact you?
Yes, you can still.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think Amos, you have absorbed very well how to handle exception.
I can't say very well, but it's good. I have a handle on it.
Yeah, because this part which I was teaching is just like a bonus. This one, it won't come in a certification.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
This one of where I was teaching you the add, upper, lower, it won't come in exception in certification. But this one of how to handle exception, it will come. That one is this one is within the course. So just because I saw I only took 30 minutes to finish this one, so I decided to add you this as just a bonus.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, this thing needs a lot of practice. I think we have to give it time.
Yeah, it needs a lot of practice. Let me send to you right now these notebooks. So the one in chapter 11 is just a bonus, but the one in chapter 13 is what will be tested.
Okay.
So that is it. I think you will put more concentration in chapter 13.
Thank you.
Yes. So that is it. And that is the end now of Python programming.
Wow.
Yes.
So I know in that certification we have essential, we have intermediate,
Yes.
and so does this cover essential or it covers all the, it covers everything?
Yeah. For example, if you go to the notes which I've been sending you, if you read it, all of them, you will be
Yeah,
in a position to cover from essential up to advanced.
up to advanced.
But
Okay.
now, when I was teaching, for example, in the other class, in the African class, I realized that when I tried to include each and everything in the book, some people are finding it to be very difficult and they were like running away. So I decided just to teach the essential one. But for example, the one which I'm just through with the teaching it some few minutes ago, it is just the content in the intermediate and advanced.
Okay.
Yes.
That's good. That's good to
Yeah.
know. So now we have everything to do with Python. We just need to practice.
Yeah, you have everything to do with Python. It's just practicing, because what I've taught is just enough. Because what we are doing is, for example, now somebody wants to learn data science. And when you want to learn data science, you have at least to know either Python programming or R, isn't it? But in
Yes.
our case, we decided to go with Python, because Python, first of all, it is an easy language. And the second thing, it is used by many people across the globe. And the third thing, it is marketable, because when you go to each and every organization which needs data scientists, they just require a knowledge of Python. So we decided to, before somebody now goes for a class in Python for data science, he or she has to know first how to program, so that when you will go to the next class, when you will be meeting some things, you don't ask again, how is it done? Because you will have known how to program.
So I know you normally record
Yes.
the lectures. At times I have problems accessing them. I don't know how
I
I
think
can.
I'll be sending to you individually, because when Yvonne posts, she normally posts at the group. And
Yeah, that would
sometimes,
help.
yeah, sometimes I realize that you take a lot of time before you check your WhatsApp.
Yeah, I do check, but for some reason, when I try to access
Yes,
the lessons,
yes.
I don't see them. I go on BNA, I don't see anything. I try
I'll be forced to
even,
be I'll be forced to be sending it through your mail, direct to your mail.
I think that will help.
Yes.
I don't know if it's my WhatsApp that has issues. I don't know.
No, you use glasses. You might be missing.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
we have to go a notch higher. You might just be passing through them, but you don't see them.
uh, I get
So
you.
that is it. I'm seeing Ruth. She's saying that she's not seeing my screen, but I've stopped sharing the screen. I don't know if she had any question. Ruth, if you can hear me, did you have any question? Okay. So that is it, unless Yvonne has got something to say. But I've finished my part, and I really want to thank you for being with us for all this time. What I've given you, it is just enough for you to almost get everything. In fact, the first person has done. The first person has done this certification, and I think he did it. I think yesterday. He's from Kakuma, and he almost scored everything. He was extremely happy. He got 92. So
Wow.
that
So you,
means, yeah, he got 92. He is from a Kenyan class. He got 92.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So it is not that hard. This certification is just your time. Um there are some questions which it will require you to code, but there are some questions if you have just been keen, you'll just see them. It is just direct forward. For example, I remember I did a question such as a slicing of 2 to 5, and he was being asked uh, how many elements will it slice? 2 to 5. So those are just 3 elements, starting from index 2 up to 4. So there are some things you just visualize them using your eyes. There are some small things you will use the codes, and you'll be good to go. Thank you. Yvonne, I can give you an opportunity so that maybe.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, sir, for teaching. Thank you, everyone, for listening and concentrating. Yes, this is the last class I will advise you to go and check all the other recordings also, so that you can prepare yourself for your certification. Yes, that's all.
Thank you a lot. I don't know if anybody has got any contribution before we call it off. I've never heard David's sound. I don't know if you will mind just greeting us. Okay, I think it's.
So Levi, just a sec. Are you going to send all the recordings?
Yeah, I will just request it from Yvonne. I think she has got everything. You'll send it to me. Then I compile for you all the recordings and I send it via your mail.
Great.
Yeah, in fact, starting from the first lesson, I send it everything.
I'd like to receive them as well.
Via your mail?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll also send because I have your mail. I have Amos' mail. The mail
Thank
which I
you.
don't have is for David. And I don't know if he's around. Yeah, that is it. That is what I can say. And